Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today is Monday, the 23rd of August, 2021, and welcome to the Accelerate and Multiply group. It's a lovely to have you here as part of our community. Today, in the Accelerate and Multiply community, we have just hit 219 community members. So congratulations to you all, and thank you for helping me build this community. Now, if you're joining me here live, type in live into the chat box. Or if you're watching me here on the replay, type in replay into the chat box below. Now, at the end of today's conversation, you are going to learn how to turn fear into fuel. You're going to learn how to turn shit into sugar, and you're going to learn how you can start to profit from your passion. Today, as we begin, I'd also like to welcome our latest community members. Guy, thank you for joining us. Richard Lim, Michael Yam, Rashida, Josephine, Alvin, Nick, One, Lim, Walter Churn, Wilkes in tow. So congratulations and thank you for joining me here on the Accelerate and Multiply community. Now, if you're watching me live, you can go to the top of this post and there'll be a blue link and it'll ask you for permission to let StreamYard share your name. So Maru, thank you for joining me this afternoon, and I know you'll enjoy these ideas. So let me ask you, what is it that you want? What is it that you want more of right now? Is it that you're looking for less fear? Would you like to experience less doubt? Or is it that you want more profits? And I ask this because what I'm talking about today is turning your fear into fuel. Because so many business people, so many serious professionals are held back by fear. They fear making mistakes. And as we fear making mistakes, we begin to procrastinate. So if you ever catch yourself procrastinating, what comes before that is the fears of making a mistake. And procrastination is just simply a lack of action. Secondly, when you doubt yourself, you begin to convince yourself, you talk yourself into the fact that success is possible for every single person except you. And you sell yourself on the idea that success is not possible for you. The third thing we're going to talk about today is the faster you face your fears, the more time you'll have to profit from your passion. Jenny, thank you for joining me today. Thank you, Coach. It's wonderful to see you here as well. For the others who are joining me live today, say hello, go to the chat box, type in hello, and tell me, give me one word. Tell me one word that describes your day so far. So today's topic is taking your fears and turning them into fuel. Now, recently, a company called Seek Capital, they did a study on the top 10 fears in business in 2021. And they went into the marketplace and they talked to 15 of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. And what they wanted to discover what the biggest fears in business are right now. And so there was 15 big fears that they discovered. And I condensed these down to 5 common fears. So thank you for joining me. Kelvin, good to see you, Coach. Wonderful to see you there also. So today we're talking about the top fears in business. Right now, the number one fear in business is a fear of making a mistake. That's the first one. The second fear that is most common around entrepreneurs and business is the fear of missing an opportunity. Number 3 is having a fear of having nothing to show for all of your time, energy, and investments into a business. The fourth one is letting down your team. And the fifth fear is a fear of not taking enough action. So these are the top 5 fears. Number 1, the fear of making a mistake. Number 2, the fear of missing out. Number 3, doing a lot of hard work and having nothing to show for your efforts. Number 4, letting your team down. And the 5th greatest fear was a fear of not taking action, ultimately procrastinating. So fear held me back for many years. And I remember fear started to impact my sporting career. Now, at the age of 5, you wouldn't believe it, at the age of 5, I remember experiencing these fears. And my fear was when I was water skiing, I didn't want to fall off my water skis. And my cousin said to me, Daniel, if you fall off and you're still holding on to the rope, that's a good thing. But he said, if you fall off and let go of the rope, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you in the water and you're either going to sink or swim. And I remember one time I thought I was going to fall off. So all of a sudden I let go of the rope. I let go of the rope. He saw me let go of the rope and I fell off and he just kept driving the boat down the river. And I had to learn very quickly the sink or swim method. I wasn't going to sink, so I had to swim for the shores. But I swam for the shores and it felt like he had left me there for a lifetime. Now, again, at age 14, I'd broken my nose when I was wakeboarding. And then I had a fear of getting hurt. And the most interesting thing was that I was afraid of getting hurt. And this fear of getting hurt prevented me from trying new tricks. And I remember my brother saying to me one day, he said, Daniel, it's all in your head. And I remember that conversation at age 14. So, Jenny, thank you for joining us. Face everything and rise. I love that. Rafika, good afternoon. Maru, productive for half of the day. 100%. Now, another time that I experienced fear was when I was in real estate. And I remember it very clearly. I wanted the money. I wanted the houses. I wanted the cars. I wanted the commission. But I didn't want the rejection. And the problem with that was that I actually didn't know how to manage the rejection. It wasn't the fear of rejection that was the real problem. It was not knowing how to manage the fear that created the problem. I also saw fear again when I was cabin crew. And I remember I wanted to do the PA. I wanted to do the public announcement, but I didn't want to make a mistake. I didn't want to be embarrassed. I didn't want to be unknown after doing the PA. I also didn't want the risk of embarrassing myself. And this was this inner conflict that I started to have. A part of me wanted to do the PA, but the other part didn't want to make a mistake. One part of me wanted to take the risk and do it and work on public speaking, but the other part of me had this fear and I was worried about the risk of embarrassing myself. And I ended up having this internal battle and it was all coming down to fear. So let me ask you, have you experienced fear in the past? Have you experienced the fear of the unknown? Have you experienced the fear of letting other people down? What fears have you personally experienced in the past? Because I know I've experienced so many of these fears. I've experienced them in relationships. I've experienced them in my career. I've experienced them in sport. And I've experienced so many different fears throughout my life that at one stage in my life, I thought I was the only person experiencing fear. So what about you? If you're watching me live, type in, tell me, what are some of these fears that have held you back in the past? If you're joining me on the replay, go to the comments box and tell me, what are the fears that have held you back in the past? I'm always fascinated by this topic because for many years, I thought I was the only person experiencing these fears. When I was 16, when I was wakeboarding, I didn't know who I could talk to about these fears. I know there was something wrong in here. I knew there was something wrong in here, but I didn't know how to face it. And I didn't know how to bring up the conversation. So you go to the chat box, you tell me what are some of those fears that have held you back. Now, through my experience, I've come up with a 4-step process, and I've shared this 4-step process to help thousands of people like you overcome their fears. And I'm going to give you the 4 steps today. Jenny, fear of the unknown. Yes, so true. Thank you for sharing. Now, here's the 4-step process that I use to eliminate fear. The first thing is we have to recognize the fear. So the first step is recognizing the fear. And the fear may be in the form of indecisiveness. If you're finding it hard to make a decision and you're experiencing indecisiveness, there's going to be fear right there. If you start to experience self-doubt, if you start to second guess yourself, if you start to balk, if you go to take action but you stop yourself, there's obviously fear there. Maybe you're also experiencing the fear of rejection, or maybe you're just failing to act. So the first step here is to recognize the fear. And what I like to say is if you can't name it, you can't tame it. So we recognize the fear. That's step number 1. Step number 2, you need to eliminate your negative thoughts. This is interesting. Your thoughts, your explanatory style, that voice in your head predicts 95% of your feelings. Your inner dialogue, that inner critic, influences 95% of your feelings, which includes fear. And what I've discovered listening to my own self-talk, I used to say things like, Daniel, what if you fail? What if I try? What if I fail? And my inner dialogue was quite negative. And so what I learned to do was I learned to change the way that I spoke to myself. So instead of saying, what if I fail? I now say, what if I succeed? And you've got to challenge that inner dialogue. If you catch yourself saying, what if I fail? I want you to try saying, what if I succeed? And all of a sudden you can shift your thoughts from a negative direction immediately across to a positive direction. And all you need to change is that inner dialogue. The third thing that we've got to do is we also have to be able to get out of our comfort zones. And remember, the comfort zone is the biggest killer of success. Most people are doing what's fun and easy. And remember, the comfort zone is comfortable, but everything that you want is outside of that comfort zone. Your comfort zone today was your previous success zone. You successfully got into the comfort zone. And what you've got to be able to do now is move out of that comfort zone into a new success zone. And remember, the comfort zone is the biggest killer of success. So for those of you who are joining me live, say hello. Let me know, is this the first time you're joining me here on the Accelerate and Multiply live stream? Or are you one of our repeat offenders and you've been here many times before? Number 4, what you have to do is you have to move towards your biggest fear. This is very important. When you have multiple fears, you have to move towards your biggest fear first. And the reason why you do this is because fear feeds on time. Your fears feed on time. And you know, if you've been delaying, if you've been putting things off, if you've been procrastinating, all of a sudden that fear becomes bigger inside of your mind. And it's because of time. Just remember, fear feeds on time. And you've got to be able to starve fear of time by acting immediately. So the faster that you move towards your biggest fears, the faster that you starve fear of time. And when you do that, when you take action immediately, your fears start to dissolve. Jenny, thank you. Maru, fear of my own credibility, fear of letting my team down, fear of not meeting the target. Thank you so much for sharing. I like that one. Jenny, everything we want is on the other side of fear, 100%. It's outside of that comfort zone. So this is the point. This is the point that I want to make. If you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. So let me summarize today's conversation in 3 simple points. Firstly, you have to learn to live with fears. And at different times of your life, you're going to face different fears. Secondly, you have to decide for yourself what is worse. Is it living with the fear for a few moments, or is it living with regret for the rest of your life? And thirdly, if you do the thing you fear, the death of fear is certain. So let me ask you, what is it that you're taking away from today's conversation? I want you to go to the chat box now and let me know, what is it that you're taking away from today's conversation? Kelvin, beautiful summary. 4 steps to overcome fear. Number 1, recognize the fear. Number 2, eliminate the negative thoughts. Number 3, get out of the comfort zone. And number 4, move towards your biggest fear. This is so important. Most people face all of their little fears, but facing your little fears doesn't give you the strength to face the big ones. See, what happens is when you face the big fear, you start to experience courage. And as soon as you've got the courage to face the big ones, those small ones just disappear immediately. One of my good friends and mentors, Brian Tracy, says, eat that frog. He says, eat the biggest, ugliest frog the first thing in the morning. Then everything after that will be easy. And so you've got to learn to face those fears. Do those things that you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Make sure you go after that biggest fear first, and everything after that will be simple and easy. Peter, thank you for joining me. Thinking will not overcome the fear, but action will. Peter, so many people think about fear all of the time. They come up with plans on how they're going to overcome it. They think about all the programs that they're going to take to overcome these fears, and they go out and they learn, but they never implement what they've learned. And what you're saying here is thinking will not overcome the fear, but action will. The more you think about the fear, the bigger the fear becomes. And the reason why that is because people see the fear. They see themselves approaching the problem, approaching the obstacle, and then failing. And so in their mind, they see failure. When they focus on failure, they experience fear. But when you focus on the successful completion, when you focus on successfully overcoming that hurdle, then your mind experiences success. Your confidence goes up, your courage goes up. And then, like you said here, you take action, all of those fears disappear. Because if you just do that thing that you fear, the death of fear is certain. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're enjoying yourself in the Accelerate and Multiply community. We've got so much good stuff coming up this week and in the weeks ahead. And I know that by being in this group, you're going to be able to learn how to catapult your influence. You're going to be able to accelerate your impact. And of course, you're going to learn how to unleash new income levels. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you so much for your interactions. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Have a wonderful day.